Hey, this is Kirk.
And this is Byrd. It's the Kirk and Byrd show. We are pleased and just really happy to have Matt Hatfield with us today. For those, and I know our audience knows this guy, Matt Hatfield of VirginiaPreps.com is a 757 native, knows crazy amount of sports stuff. Like, we started this show, Kirk and I, because we thought we were like Virginia nerds in sports in high school, but this guy might have us beat. So Matt, welcome to the show.
My pleasure, Rusty. Same to you, Kirk. Thanks for having me on. And it's been a fun time of year, busy time of year as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, Matt, I watched you on our mutual friend Julian Brown's show. And I think Dwight Vick talked about it also on his show. But I don't think you had notes, man. And it was like, wow. So, you know, we're here. We want to let you introduce yourself, Virginia native, but just to let everybody know, I don't know how y'all feel, but I feel like there's a little bit of a lull with the Super Bowl being over. However, we're getting into high school, which is our favorite. We're getting into high school basketball playoffs. The wrestling championships just ended, and we're going into the final stretch of the season, the conference tournaments and basketball and NCAA tournament. Having said that, Matt, why don't you go ahead and talk to us about all of the things that you're involved with so we make sure our viewers get the opportunity to go check you out. Love following you on Twitter. Best updates ever.
Thank you. Appreciate that, guys.
Hatfield Sports.
Yep, Hatfield Sports on Twitter. My pleasure. Grew up, born and raised here in Virginia Beach. I've been doing this as far as covering high school sports. I actually started as a freelance just reporter for the high school football scoreboard show for then ESPN Radio 1310, which is now ESPN Radio 94.1. And I'll get to that in a second, back in 2002. My folks, they were longtime band parents for the Kempsville High School Band, where most people in my family kind of went to school, and I started going to all the Kempsville games. So I had phone-in reports for that. 2004, started my own website, which is MatthewHatfield.com. I really don't have much time to put effort into that as much as I used to, but really followed college and pro sports. And I started dabbling in some high school stuff, posted on the Virginia Preps message board. They found me there. They said, we'd like to have you do high school basketball. I knew next to nothing about high school basketball at that time. And then as it kind of morphed into from there, I ended up becoming their Eastern Region basketball reporter at that time in 2004. And ultimately, here we are 18 years later. I'm still covering high school sports. I'm now the publisher for VirginiaPreps.com. Became the publisher in 2016. I do a weekly radio show on ESPN Radio 94.1, which I co-host with Nansemond River basketball coach Ed Young on Saturdays, 10 a.m. to noon. You can check that out on ESPN Radio 941.com. I've done some work for the ACC Sports Journal, done some broadcasting, field hockey broadcasting, done some NFHS broadcasting for the state tournament. I'll miss it this year because I'm now the voice for the Old Dominion women's basketball team. So I'll be in Frisco, Texas. Yeah, I got that gig unexpectedly. Went through that process in August, got hired in October, and I'm doing that gig now. So I'll be watching the games like a lot of people via the NFHS broadcasting for that, missing for the first time in 17, 18 years. And I do some freelance work as well for the Suffolk News Herald at SuffolkNewsHerald.com. So I stay pretty busy, and you can follow our stuff, VirginiaPreps.com, and me on Twitter at Hatfield Sports.
Kirk, I think he might have us combined beat by like tenfold. Good stuff, man. Oh, wow. That's great.
Well, Matt, we will put all that on the screen for so people can check it out. I can tell you, we geek out on stuff, and I check Matt's Twitter. We tweet stuff, but I always check yours. Especially, I was checking it last night. But obviously, we're here to talk about the Virginia high school playoffs, and we had some great games. You said you were up here last night for the Potomac John Champ game, and Rusty, I didn't have it in me to drive down to Patriot, but we were going to talk about that. So let's dive right in, and we're going to cover, 4 divisions. We're not going to do 1, 2. If we want to do a little clip on that, but let's start off with 6A that has some undefeated teams and get your views on, what's going to happen. And of course, you're in the 757 Virginia Beach guy, and we grew up in Hampton. Let's talk about the 757 and 6A.
For sure, and we'll get to that as far as how many teams, because every year I get asked that question by even some of the novices that follow high school sports. How many teams are going to win the state championship from Tidewater or Nova or Richmond? And it's always so hard to kind of forecast that. You know that is, Rusty. And people say, like, how many going to win from this hometown? And you try to give them an accurate number, like, well, I think this many will if this matchup happens, but if this one happens,
right,
then change that number. But as far as 6A goes, Kirk, I mean, Hayfield is just dominant right now. They got a chance to show themselves off in a lot of quality matchups outside the Northern Virginia pocket of quality opponents. When they played John Marshall, beat them in Richmond.
Yep.
I think they got the antenna up for people around the state. They came down to our Virginia Preps Classic in early January at Green Run High School. They were supposed to play Green Run. Green Run had a COVID situation, so they couldn't play them. They played Lansdowne instead, which could be a collision course of a state final. Dare we see it in Class 6. And they were, they put up 84 points on Lansdowne, who does not give up that many points hardly ever. Dwight Robinson is one of the best defensive coaches in the entire state, and he's got one of the best players in Donald Hand Jr., who's going to Boston College, son of a former ACC great at the University of Virginia. But I just love their balance. I mean, they've got 5 guys that all play their role so well. They're balanced. They have a point guard that leads them in Braylon Wheeler. I think he had like 18 points, 8 assists, maybe 1 turnover that day in our event. Football and a quarterback in football. Then you have next to him 2 guards that complement him well in Daryl DJ Holloway, who's a slasher, good in transition, Ashton Pratt, who can fill it up from deep. Greg Jones is one of the toughest matchups in the state. He's a 6'6" forward who has guard skills. And then David King inside. If you were watching this kid in off-season leagues or even AAU, I watched a little bit of him last May, and I'm like, how is this guy 6'2" and scoring against guys that are 6'5", 6'6" routinely? He just has a knack for it, and he runs, rim to rim so well in the open court for them, and he's a perfect fit for what they do. And Carlos Poindexter's done a great job. But their bracket is not easy because on their side of the bracket, they've got coming up first W.T. Woodson in the regional quarterfinals, and then they've got after that South County in the regional semis, who they pulled somewhat of a slight upset last year when South County had a team we expected to be in the state final again under Coach Mike Robinson, then led by Trenton Picott and Andre Spate. Now they've got, some good guards with Lyman and Lee back there, but you wonder if they have just the overall firepower and depth to beat Hayfield. They certainly could, but that's a tricky game for Hayfield just to get to the state tournament. So they have a couple games that could certainly derail them if they're not careful. But right now they're the favorite. And then into your top contenders after that, guys, you're looking at South Lakes, who's 20-2.
Yep.
They've been very good this year. Mike Desmond's got a nice program with some solid parts, and they can press, they can play in transition, they can score from all over. Kyle Ting at the point, Colin Luongo filling it up from deep, EJ Finney. And then I'd say you look at Patriot and Lansdowne at a B and A. Patriot, just the performance they put forth against C.D. Hilton guys. I mean, 80-46. And I think
crushed them.
They're kind of appearing a year early to me, because I mentioned this to someone else recently that they don't have a lot of seniors on this group, but Sherman Rivers is doing an outstanding job with this group. I mean, you got Nick Marrero, you got Nasir Coleman, who was player of the year in that league. Isaiah Vick is coming on the front line. They have different guys that can step up. Desmond Hopkins in the backcourt. They can win high scoring. They can win low scoring. They're a dangerous team. But they've got a dangerous team in front of them in Potomac, who's in years past had their number, veteran coach in Keith Honore, who Sherman Rivers comes from that program. He played there, was under him. And Kyle Honore, player of the year. And then they added a new piece that's really given them another dimension in Jaden Harris, a 6'6" newcomer. So he has a big game, and this game is close. I mean, just last night against John Champ, they shot 23 of 26 from the foul line, 12 of 14 in the fourth quarter. So if it's a tight game, even though on the road, you wonder about the pressure getting to both Hayfield and Patriot, because they are undefeated. And I don't care how good your team is, they're still high school kids. And as long as you have that goose egg in that loss column, it weighs on you a lot.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot.
So that was one of the things, man. That's outstanding analysis. So one of the things the point that I noticed early on was when my son went to Bishop Ireton, and that's where Jaden came from, the Potomac player. But I noticed in Hayfield's first game of the year, they beat a WCAC private school that is allowed to recruit. They actually beat Bishop Ireton by almost 30. 83-54. They almost beat 29 points. So right off the bat, I was like, is Hayfield that good? And then I saw them beat Marshall and all these teams in like convincing fashion. And I finally got a chance to see Patriot. I saw them play John Champ a week or two ago, and they're legit. But let me ask you this. Those are 2 undefeated teams. Mm-hmm. Not that I was pulling for Patriot to lose or for Hayfield to lose, but what are your thoughts on teams going undefeated through the regular season and even in the district tournament. Do you ever think it's a good idea? And we talked about this in football with Oscar Smith and Phoebus, to get maybe that one loss out of the way where you, as a coach, you can point out your problems. They felt pressure. And these teams, they've been blowing everybody out, because I see Hayfield has some tight lanes. They've overcome. But what are your thoughts on, again, these are kids, with having no loss?
I believe it can be a good thing. As a coach, you never want to say, let's go lose the game, guys. We want to lose this game. But I look back to Westfield. And Westfield, when they won their state championship with Tyler Scanlon and Blake Francis, that crew that had to beat Woodside in a very, very tough semifinal. And ironically enough, that year, and Doug Yule told us this later in the Q&A we put up on Virginia Preps, he said one of the best things that happened to us was not playing Woodside in your Virginia Preps that got sent out that year, because they would have gotten a look at us, a scout on us, and then the second matchup, we might not have been as feisty or energized for it. Woodside might have had that extra chip and beaten us. They come back, win that game against Chris Orlina, Devontae Carter, and that Woodside team. But they, if you remember that year, they won the state championship. They beat Oscar Smith in the final. They lost to Battlefield in the region championship. And I thought that loss served them an extra sense of purpose and motivation. It kind of got them fired up. And in the case of Hayfield and Patriot, you do wonder about it a little bit. I mean, especially in the case of Hayfield, I think if they got to the state final and they were to see either Patriot or Lansdowne, the favorites, I think, out of A and B, let's just call it what it is. Lansdowne's got the best player maybe in the state, and Donald Hand Jr. going to BC, great coach, and Dwight Robinson. And Patriots got a team that can beat you a lot of different ways, and they haven't lost yet. If you get to that point, I think Hayfield will be like 31-0. So, I mean, that's something you don't see. If you see an undefeated team, I think the last one we've had in the state was Radford a couple of years ago, which is a Class 2. You do that at the Class 6 or Class 5 level. And Class 5, I think, in recent years has been the toughest division in the state.
The toughest. I agree.
You're really, really doing something mighty hard and impressive. It's not like football where it's 14, 15 weeks. You have that full week to prepare. 30-plus games, that is some kind of feat. And I remember when Petersburg got to the final that year.
Oh, yeah.
Lost to Norcom with Dorian Finney-Smith when he was a junior.
Right.
That was weighing on them. They missed free throws late. They were never a great free throw shooting team to begin with. That gets to you in crunch time and pressure situations. If we got two undefeated teams, though, in that final, how ironic would that be? Because somebody's going to pull it off at that point.
Yeah.
So before we transition to 5, I tell you what, I'm always the go on the record kind of guy. So I tell you, I like to come out. I actually like Lansdowne to come out of Region A.
Agree with you.
And B, I'm going to go for Potomac over Patriot. So I like Potomac, but they got a tough Woodbridge. And then, two teams come out of each of these. And then I'm going to say for, South Lakes Madison is going to be a good one. And I don't know, Matt, if you've seen that big kid. He's not tall for South Lakes, but he's big. I mean, he takes up a lot of real estate. So I like South Lakes coming out of that. And then, I'm going to go with Hayfield. Definitely go with Hayfield. And then on the, the other side, I think there's some great teams. I would say, probably West Potomac. But then for dark horses, I like Lansdowne. Why don't we close out with your picks, Matt and Rusty? Why don't you give us that, and let's move on to Division 5.
Yeah, I think our VIP board, we put up our picks is ironically enough, I've got the same 4 that you do, Kirk. I actually took the wild card of taking Potomac over Patriot. Although having seen them last night, what Patriot did, I might want to mulligan and change my mind a little bit. Although you never read too much into one game here. I actually went Lansdowne over Manchester in the final there. I actually took a wild card upset with Manchester over Smith in the semis and that one there. I've seen Manchester live against LC Byrd. They're as athletic as any team in that region. I just wonder about pressure situations. Can their point guard play and their decision-making be very solid? But I've got Lansdowne over Manchester. I've got Potomac over Woodbridge, and I've got Hayfield over Fairfax. Took a flyer on them. I know they had a close game with TJ there. I just think the way they control tempo could help them. They got a favorable side of the bracket. I could make a case if Woodson or South County was on that side, they'd come out of that side. And then I got South Lakes over Madison in 6 as well in 6D.
Woodson's dangerous. Real quick, Rusty.
Good coach, good guard.
Girls.
To save a little time, I'm with you Kirk, except I'm going to go ahead and pick Patriot.
Smart pick. I mean, it makes more sense to take him with the undefeated record. Yep.
Yeah.
I like what Potomac is with picking up Jake, but he still only played 5 games now with them, and I thought that Champ game, but Champ played Patriot well, tough. So I just wonder if you know how Patriot, how Jaden will do under some of that pressure that Patriots puts on them out there. So those are my picks.
Yeah, he's coming off the bench right now to finish up on that. I think Coach Honore might want to think about starting him for this game, being such an important one here and the situation to get off to a good start because they got down 5-0 against Champ. And watch out for Champ in the future. Walt Webb's got some good youngsters. Cade Sebastian, really good freshman, picked up a kid from DeMatha, Ben Woodward. They're a team that we could be talking about in the Final 8, Final 4 come next year if they keep it all together and continue to improve.
Yeah, I want to see those guys because they're not far from here. I'm in Loudoun County, but transitioning to 5. Let's start off with 5A, which is your neck of the woods.
Wide open.
Okay. All right. Talk to us about that. Indian River's the number 1 seed. We've got Princess Anne, number 2. Who do you like?
I actually am going on my picks on record here. I'm taking Salem over Kempsville. I can make the argument to you that the 4-5 winners, Salem and Green Run, although Green Run is starting 2 freshmen, and they're going to be a team to deal with in a couple of years, similar to maybe their team they had with Elijah Kennedy, who's now at Florida, and Jacob Cooper the last couple of years for Coach Kenneth Harris. I can make an argument that the winner of that 4-5 game wins the region. Indian River's had a nice year. I just don't know if they have enough to win this region as a 1 seed. To me, they're maybe the most vulnerable, and it's nothing against them. I think Justin Brandt's done a good job as a first-year coach. They have a terrific 2-sport athlete in the front line in Zion Lloyd, but guard play wins for you. And I think Kempsville's got maybe the best point guard in that bracket in Elijah White. Darren Centerland is no stranger to big stages. He obviously was a great player and a state championship coach at Booker T. Washington, played at Norfolk State as well. Princess Anne's got a good tandem in George Archer, Michael Ojo, do the 3 through 8 guys for them, step up for Corey Kofer. And to me, Salem's experience, they've got 9 seniors. So I go with seniors and point guard play. That's why I've got Salem and Kempsville. But that bracket is as wide open as any, dare I say, in the whole state.
Yep. Okay. So now we're going to go to something near and dear to Rusty and I's heart. That's the B region. We're getting into a red hot Kickintan team. Have they won 19 in a row? Matt?
20 straight. 20 straight. And they beat Hampton by 40 plus last week to end the season.
Wow. Yeah, and they're going to play the winner of Menchville Bethel. I've heard different things about Bethel. I've heard Bethel's tough. I haven't heard that much about Menchville.
Yeah, Bethel's had an up and down year. Saw them early, 9-0 start, I believe it was. Coach Craig Breon, our thoughts and prayers go out to him. Super guy, just got his 400th win. He's battling colon cancer. Their star point guard, Kamari Smiley Folks, has been dealing with this multiple sclerosis situation that's kept him sidelined. And when he was playing well, he was looking like one of the breakout guards in the 7-5-7 issue. They have a big man at Obi Okafor. And I'm looking forward to this matchup tonight, guys, because you get 2 towering big men. That has been gone from high school basketball. They're not blue chip recruits, but Obi Okafor for Bethel and then Dallas Kendall for Menchville. They're both about 6'8 plus. They're both raw, but they're talented. So we get to see 2 big men in the paint. Hopefully the referees let them play. I think Menchville has more overall firepower. Now, what's interesting about this game is Menchville blew them out the first time. Bethel got revenge in the rematch. So this is a toss-up type of game. But I think Menchville's perimeter play with A.J. Clark and with Etienne Struthers, son of Coach Lamont Struthers, the former CNU great NBA player, will help them and their depth too, because Bethel's missing Folks, I think. So I would go with Menchville in this game, which would set up a Menchville Kickintan semi, guys. And keep in mind, as hot as Kickintan looked, and to me, I'll go on record saying it, that was one of the best halves of basketball I've seen a Tidewater team play since maybe that Norcom crew with Dorian Finney-Smith or that Cape Henry crew with Chris Clark and Marcus Evans. They were spectacular against Hampton. But their 2 wins over Menchville were both with under a minute to go, 1 possession game. So that's a dangerous team to have to play potentially a 3rd time at the Scope on Friday in the semifinals. They're probably not going to admit it. They'd probably rather see Bethel, who they blew out twice, than Menchville, who they had to squeak by both times.
Who you like on the bottom half?
Well, it's interesting. Woodside's the 3 playing at Norview, the 6 seed in Norview's gym, and Norview just beat Maury 2 Fridays ago in double overtime. I think Woodside's got more talent, but in that kind of raucous atmosphere at Norview behind the crowd, Norview's physicality might get them. Woodside's got the best player on the floor in Trevor Smith, but I've seen Norview do this before. They upset Bethel one year when Bethel was better at Norview's gym. I'm going to pull the slight surprise and go with Norview, but I do think Morey gets them in the rematch. Morey is built better to win a state championship next year under Coach Brandon Plummer. A lot of juniors and sophomores. But as I have to kind of go with a side here, this is a great region, maybe the best in the state. I'm going to go with Kickintan, slight nod over Morey in the final in 5B.
What do you think, Rusty? Bethel off?
I'm a Bruin. Come on. I got Bethel coming out.
Okay.
Matt, I like Norview to upset Woodside and Morey. So, but I'm going with Kickintan, going with the Hampton team. You know, Kickintan has never won a state championship in any sport. So
I know.
That's unbelievable. I was just thinking about that the other day.
All the great programs so all my Warrior friends, they were arch rivals with Phoebus too. So looking for Kickintan. So
they're due. They're due.
Yep. Moving on, we've got another great region. That's Region C with the Richmond teams. What are your thoughts there, Matt?
I think this is LC Byrd's region to lose. I will say this. I've told people this. I've seen Prince George live. I've watched Highland Springs lately because that's the team that snuck up on me. We know about Highland Springs as athletes and what they've done in football and even girls basketball. They've had some pretty good basketball boys teams over the years, more during the George Lancaster era than here in the last 10, 15 years. But I will say this. I think Byrd wins the region without too much trouble. However, if they in the semifinals they get Prince George, Highland Springs, I would not be surprised if they get down double digits to one of them and have to rally, because it could be a little like the Manchester game a couple weeks ago where they were down 12 early, came back and won it. Both have enough weaponry to give them problems. Curtis Allen, who's a multi-sport star for Prince George, and Highland Springs has got a good mixture of guards and bigs. So I could see that being a tough game. Bottom half of the bracket, Douglas Freeman to me. Gray Prophet's a really good underrated player up there. He can get a double-double. Freeman can play good defense and control tempo for a while, but ultimately Byrd's mixture of guards with Yuri Mans and A.J. Wills, their size and their ability to play fast or slow. Troy Mans is one of the best in the business. I think Byrd gets it done. Yep.
Former Hokie. We like that. Yeah, I think LC Byrd's coming out of that one. And then we're going to go to D, which is setting up nicely. Let's got some of our teams up here. And basically, it's funny when I read this bracket, how are they doing the seedings on this? Like the number one seeds, one is Massaponax and then Potomac Falls. So Coach Hall's is going to be, they have North Stafford, they have Potomac Falls. And then this Albemarle, is it, and there's a Roanoke too. What is that?
So what happened there? It was a sub-region. I had to get clarification myself from this on Sunday night from Albemarle coach Greg Maynard. Then I was texting with a couple other coaches, including Kent Kling at Stonebridge and a few others, Riverside. It sounds like we're going to have a deal where William Fleming, who won the sub-region seed game, they had a sub-region play-in, which was Fleming over Patrick Henry, Albemarle over Harrisonburg. Then they played each other last night, Albemarle and Fleming, to see who got the one seed. So Fleming's going to host Riverside up top. Bottom part of the bracket, Albemarle hosts Stafford. I actually think the loser of that Albemarle-Fleming game got the better draw because you're opposite side of Massaponax, who's got 19 wins, Stonebridge, who's got 16 wins, Riverside, who's already beaten Western Albemarle this year, and they're a good team. In a strange way, losing that game might have been a better path for Albemarle than it is for William Fleming. You never say, let's go lose the game, but better path. I'm going to go. It wouldn't shock me to see a Stonebridge Potomac Falls rematch, but I'll go with Stonebridge. They just got winners. They got killers in Jacob Thomas and Dylan Hundemark over Albemarle in the final there.
Okay. So you like Stonebridge. I know we got a lot of friends at Stonebridge.
And they're playing a Massaponax team, guys. It's won like 12 or 13 games in a row. Maybe one of the, like I said, Highland Springs is a quiet story in Richmond. Quiet story out of Fredericksburg nobody's talking about. Some of these Fredericksburg teams like Colonial Forge, when they won back-to-back state titles, they sneak up on you. So Massaponax is no joke. They got a big guy inside in Devin Johnson, who's 6'7". If he's protecting the paint, keeping Thomas and Hundermark out of the lane, Stonebridge is in trouble because then they'll have a hard time to get out of that game in terms of winning it with outside shooting alone. So that's a tricky game to start things.
Who do you like at the bottom of that, Matt?
I'm going to go with Albemarle. I think they get Potomac Falls in the semi. Jeff Hall, you talk about coach of the years. He should get a lot of consideration because he's got some good players, but none that you would say are hallmark guys like when he had Landon Hall as his son or Ian Anderson or Lucas Milanovic. He's got some solid players, but I think they in some ways have overachieved and exceeded my expectations for sure.
Yeah. Well, I was shocked to see Riverside beat Independence for the last one. Independence in the Potomac District was the most talented team.
I had three coaches tell me in class 5 this year that they thought they were not just the most talented team in the region, they were the most talented team in the state in Division 5. Couldn't quote them up, but they were no question about it. And tough break for them. They lose and they were up in that Stonebridge game by 10 with 4 minutes to go, but Thomas and Huntermark willed them back. And then you get to put in a consolation game. And that's the tricky thing about how they do it, because they'll argue they're better than the 2 and 3 of the Commonwealth in Stafford and North Stafford. And they probably are. I mean, they should belong in it, but that's how they seed it. That's how they do it for 5D. I honestly don't like the way they do that region. They should just do it. They should do a seeding 1 through 8. I don't like the way they seed that region at all.
Yeah, I don't either, but I would tell you, Coach Halls has his talent's okay. He's got some good shooters. He's a great coach. I like your pick of Albemarle. And then Stonebridge, I'll tell you what, if they beat Massaponax, I think they have a good shot at going. This is the hardest region to pick. But transitioning on, and we're running a little behind, is a great division, and that's Division 4 with Varina, who may be the best public school in the state of Virginia. And then we've got Kings Fork also, who put a whipping on Maury. So what are your thoughts on the region? Which region is Varina in? Oh, here we go. Region 4B. So 4B is a good one with some great Richmond teams.
I was happy with myself that I called for 2 double-digit seed upsets in the first round with Matoka over Patrick Henry and Monacan over Hanover. I don't see them going much further, although I wouldn't rule out Monacan over Henrico. Got a couple good players with Rasheed Daniels and Kendrick Warren Jr., son of the great VCU star. I know you like that, Rusty, with Kendrick Warren Sr. there.
Hey, I was just I'm gonna get Kendrick on the show. I just was reaching out to him. That's my man.
Nice. Head coach at TJ Richmond there. But I like Varina there. If you tell me Varina and Kings Fork do not meet in the state semis, I would be stunned. And they should meet in the state championship, to be honest with you, no disrespect to 4C and 4D. Eastern View is the next best team after them. So if I had to pick someone outside of Kings Fork or Varina to win the region or get to state semis, that would be the next pick. But as good a year as they are, they're just in a tough draw. They could go win 4C or 4D. Problem is they're in 4B with Varina, and I don't see them getting stopped with the future VCU Ram and Alfonso Fats Billups leading the way. So I like them. And if you want a dark horse to get to states, dark horse, not picking it, but don't rule out Hampton as a 6 seed getting to the region.
I was gonna say that. Yeah,
don't rule it out.
I was gonna ask you about that. Yeah. So they didn't play as many games this year. Was it COVID?
I think they had that situation. And remember, the Peninsula had, I believe it was an unfortunate incident. I think it was a shooting outside of school. They had to postpone a week of games. So they lost a couple of games with that.
Yep. So then we've got, we're getting over to switch over to 4A. We like Kings Fork, but Kings Fork is going to meet Varina in the semis. Is that correct?
Yeah. And that would be, if they both are region champions, that would be in the Richmond location. So it'd probably be at Varina High School or any type of neutral site high school that they're choosing. So that would be, I think, a slight edge to Varina, even though Kings Fork is certainly good enough, talented enough, capable enough to beat them.
Right. So I got a question for you, Matt. So if the loser, if they meet in the regional finals, winner stays home, the other one goes on the road. The one going on the road would still end up meeting in the semis and not the finals, because I don't have the brackets up.
Correct. They don't cross bracket, which they used to, and I wish they'd go back to it, because my argument's always been, let's say the 2 best teams in the state are on the A-B side or the C-D side, or they're in the same region. You want to have the true 2 best teams regardless of where you are. And if you put them on opposite sides of the bracket, then you have that chance. The way it's constructed now, you don't. And I think some of the reasoning was for travel purposes, but when you get to the state, you got to travel regardless.
Yeah.
We talk about some of the reason being that how many years was it, Rusty? Julian talked about it. Northern Virginia went how many
27 years.
27 years.
Northern Virginia did not win a basketball championship. And man, we're going to have to do a whole other show on that. I referee high school basketball. Okay. And so one of the things I noticed, I'm ref here in the northern region, but was it how the VHSL kind of fixed it to help now I think there's been some legitimate state champions, but
Sure.
when it was just 3 championships, the single, double, and triple A, and then it was there was that long streak, but then I think it was broken when TC beat Bethel.
Yes.
Yeah, I was at that. I was so pumped up, but that was the one that broke it. But since then, you've had some valid champions, with from this area. But I think, didn't they do something where that was always going to have a Fairfax team in the finals these last like 10 years?
Well, basically, yeah, because now you have it where you're going to have a pocket of either Northern Virginia or Roanoke in a final, and either a pocket of Taiwan or Richmond in a final, the way it's constructed. Right. But honestly, and we could spend a lot of time on this for another episode, but I would like to see them. I mean, we all like to see 3 or 4 divisions, because the way it is now, you've got teams with losing records getting in, and that's just not the best ways to do it. Yeah.
Yep. So 4C has basically all teams from up here. So counties playing tonight. Rusty, we might push our podcast. I want to go down to county. It's right down the street. They're playing Kettle Run. I like county there. Yeah. Shenandoah Valley, Loudoun Valley. I like Shenandoah County in Shenandoah. Why don't you tell us about that, Matt? Because I've seen county play. County took Independence to the buzzer, and Independence had superior talent. But what do you think about that county Shenandoah final? Who you like coming out of there?
I would go with county. Shenandoah's won some lower scoring games. They beat Kettle Run in an overtime game, 40-39. They beat Hanley 43-40. I don't know if they have quite enough scoring to win that game if it gets into the mid 50s to low 60s. They've done a really nice job this year, but ultimately I would go with either county or Valley there. I wouldn't rule out Valley beating Shenandoah, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that much about Shenandoah, but I will tell you that county is a very streaky team. They have some shooters, and if they get hot, they can definitely win. So for all my local people who have a ton of kids, let's go with I'm going to go with county also. Lastly, let's close out with 3. So now I know you have some really good specific knowledge on some of the Southwestern Virginia teams. So we've got, in Region 3 as Cave Spring, and they've got a really good team down there. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Got a big 6'7", 6'8" guy in Dylan Saunders. Got a point guard in Stark Jones, who's also a scholarship level player, in my opinion. Jacob Bruce can go 8, 9, 10 deep. He's been a state championship, state tournament level coach before. Even before he got to Cave Spring, he coached at Dan River. I think they're the favorite in that region. I would not rule out Northside because they've got a veteran Hall of Fame level coach themselves, and Billy Pope and Ariane Jernette's very, very good. They're a streaky team shooting the basketball from deep, so that could be tricky for them in a semifinal matchup with maybe the 3 seed and Lord Botetourt. Great game in the quarterfinals with Abingdon and Tunstall. Tunstall's been a surprise story this year, 18-win team. DeMarcus Morrison doing a nice job out there. Abingdon's missing their big 6'10" kid inside. Evan Ramsey, who's out for the year with an injury. So if they had him, I'd like their chances, but I would go with Cave Spring over Northside in the final. And they've played 2 good games this year. One was a blowout for Cave Spring. One was a Northside close win. I would go with Cave Spring in a rematch by about 6 to 10 points.
Okay, so we got an all Roanoke final there. And then we're going to 3C, Spotswood, Penn Laird near Harrisonburg. And then we've got Wilson Memorial. Some good teams in there. I mean, what do you think about that? Heritage out of Lynchburg?
Yeah, they're the hottest team here. Heritage Lynchburg started out the year like 4-7. They were really slow to get out of the gates. New coach, but Kyle Ferguson's a stocky guard who can get to the basket, score at will. Tough matchup, though, potentially with Spotswood. I like Spotswood a lot. Chad Edwards has a great program there. They're very young around Carmelo Pacheco, but Carmelo Pacheco might be the best scorer that not a lot of people around the state outside of people in Harrisonburg know about. He can go get 25, 30 at the drop of a hat. Potentially good matchups in that semifinal too. Liberty Christian can shoot the basketball from three. Fluvando's got some talent. Wouldn't be stunned if they pulled an upset against Wilson Memorial, who's having a nice year under Coach Jeremy Hartman. But I'm going to go with the 1 seed here just to be safe with Spotswood. They played a tough schedule out of the gate, got off to about a 500 start their first 4 to 6 games of the year, but they've kind of picked it up here the second half of the season.
Okay.
Matt,
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Kirk.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, Matt, so we've covered these top 4 divisions. Overall, who do you think is the best team, despite division? So whether it's 5, 6, 5, 4, or 3, what is your best team in the state of Virginia? If we had to play another state, who are you picking?
I would have said before the year John Marshall, but the way that Hayfield took them apart, I got to give it to Hayfield. But if you gave me an argument that you could go with Kings Fork or Varina, or even like an LC Border or John Marshall, I wouldn't fight you off too hard because I could see one of those. So if I had to rank them, I'd probably go right now. If I combine all of our divisions, I'd probably go Hayfield 1. 2 would be Kings Fork because they haven't lost yet. 3, Varina. 4 is probably Marshall over Burke because they beat them head-to-head, and then 5's the other one. And then you're still leaving out good teams like Patriot and Lansdowne and the rest of the group. So that's a tough top 5 right there.
Right.
Okay. And the last question. Now, I look at a lot of these teams. They're not playing with a lot. They're playing with a lot of speed, not a lot of big men out there. What team do you see? Because I'm looking at Patriot. I'm going, if they run into is there a big man out there in this state that plays like a big man? You mentioned the 2 teams that they had big, but who plays like a big man? And is it going to make a difference?
There really isn't. You know what's crazy? The best big man in the state might be a kid in Class 1, Spencer Hamilton from Perry McClure. And he's a Division I prospect with a couple of offers, and even he at 6'10" will step out and shoot the 3. We don't have that pure Alonzo Mourning, that pure Vernon Macklin, Duke Cruz. We don't have those pure dominant big guys that we used to. It's the game's changing, and a lot of those guys end up going to private schools, or they reclass, and they get the heck up out of here.
So closing it out before we go to, we want to talk about girls, the ladies, real quick. And we want everybody to check out our show on YouTube, the Kirk and Byrd Show, BYRD. And on Twitter, we are at the Kirk and Byrd No Show. Follow us on Twitter. Matt, I think I retweeted 6 of yours last night. So we definitely want you. But closing out, Madison, Indiana is very good. We were talking about, we were shocked that Hampton lost. Just a quick overview on ladies in the state championship.
Yeah, I think Madison's the team to beat in girls. I'd be surprised if they don't. One team that I never want to count out because she does an excellent job, Dinah Lewis at Edison. They're always very good. Yeah, I would keep an eye on them coming out of 6C potentially, and maybe they see a Madison in a state semi out of 6. Class 5, watch out. Collision course again with Princess Anne, I do believe, and maybe Norview there. You know, the last time PA girls did not make it to a state final was 2008. That's the last time they didn't make it to a state championship.
Amazing.
14 years.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Menchville's pretty good too, right?
Menchville's good, so they can give Norview a battle, but I would give a slight lean maybe to Norview over PA. This could be the year they don't get to the state final, which would be shocking, and it was shocking that Hampton lost. Kings Fork now, their path looks pretty good for girls. They could pull off the girl-boy double dip, which you don't see too often. I think Monacan did it in 2006, Radford in 2011, Alta Vista in 2004. You don't see a lot of schools at that 4, 5, or 6 level pull it off, though, but they got a chance with the Kings Fork girls and boys. Watch out for them. They'd be my favorite in 4 to get it done.
Okay. All right. So, Matt, thank you very much. We're at midday. Got to get back to work. We know you're headed to Texas.
I'm headed to Norview for a double dip, and then I'm going to Florida with the ODU women. We've got 2 games against FAU and FIU. But then I'll be going to Texas not long after that because I'll be in Frisco for the Conference USA tournament. So,
not about Matt, real quick. I know we're talking high school sports right now. I've got VCU back there. I grew up in the 757. Loving ODU women's basketball. A friend of ours, Karen Barefoot, used to be the head coach there. But quickly, what does ODU women's basketball program need to do?
tell you what, they've had some quality people. You mentioned Karen Barefoot. They had Wendy Laird before that. They've had Nikki McCray, and now Delicia Milton-Jones, who just got inducted into the women's basketball, or named to the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. She'll get inducted officially in June in Knoxville. I think they continue to recruit the way they have. They've gotten some quality players through the transfer portal. I think they've got a certain eye for what they're wanting to do here in year 3 and beyond coming up for Delicia Milton-Jones and her crew. She's got a former NBA player on her staff, and Shamon Williams, who started at UNC. I think they're doing the right things here. It just takes time, and they're transitioning from Conference USA to the Sun Belt. So the biggest thing is going to be to kind of get defensively. They got an identity. They really lock you up on defense. So it's going to be continue to get some of that identity offensively in year 3 for them. Find a couple more shooters, and then they have a chance to be, I think, a team that's talked about yearly in the NCAA tournament, which they did for many, many years during that Wendy Larry heyday.
Right. Yeah. Real quick, because we're going to close out, right, Rusty? Yes. Matt, is Christopher Newport still under number 1?
Women number 1 in America, and the CNU men are like top 5. They've got 2 Division III. We talked about double dip for Kingsport girls and boys. How about if the CNU men and women both go to a Final Four and both have a chance to win a national championship Division III? That would be just wild.
Their sports program is on the rise, and Matt, you, Rusty, we know so many, and we're talking about old school, great athletes from the 70s. So, again, please check out Matt at it's vapreps.com.
Virginia Preps.
Hatfield Sports, and then his Twitter account. What's your Twitter account again, Matt?
Yep, Hatfield Sports, VirginiaPreps.com, ESPN Radio 94.1. You can find me on YouTube. Just type in the Google machine my name and VA Preps, and you'll find all kinds of stuff. All
right, and then we're looking for everybody. You know, we believe in cross-pollination. I mean, competition's a stupid word in this business, podcasting. Co-opetition is great. You know, we help each other out, different personalities. But, Matt, I'll be looking for your Twitter tonight on that Norview, and I'll be at County. So,
Matt, you are the man. Hey, you know what, Matt? I think we'll talk offline, but we can make this the Hatfield and Byrd show. Okay, we'll get
You'll fire me.
Kirk might throw a pencil through this and hit you there, Rusty. You better be careful.
No, I'm the promo guy. I'm the one that gets his views and promotes us. So,
there you go.
Yeah. But anyway, Matt, thank you very much. Great segment. We definitely want to have you back on. Let's just say maybe regional finals, get you back on, and we'll shave it down to 30 minutes. But thank you very much. Have a
great stuff.
Have a safe trip to
Really
Florida.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
We want all of our viewers to check out Matt and obviously sign up for us. So Kirk and Byrd show, we are out. Thank you very much for tuning in. God bless.
Thank you now.